Boom. Hell yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Hell yeah. Yes. Yes.
Wow.
We're back. We are back with the soundboard. That's what's up. We're back with the soundboard and a dick model. It really is a dick model.
Let me get the screen
I
up,
don't know
mate.
how they do that, but it sounds like it looks like a dick.
Is this what you've got up on the screen
this
now?
is the right start. Yeah, this is what I have up my screen right now. It's
Okay.
Yeah, sci-fi dick. That's what's up. Let's actually start a new
It
design.
hasn't popped up for me yet, so... Oh, there it is. Dude.
Yeah, the Iron Dick. All right, dude. So today's stream we're gonna conduct in this way. Maybe that's my proposal. So how about we start with Fusion 360? And the reason I want to start with Fusion 360 is because I know Grant is interested in Fusion 360, and he likes that stuff. He likes the goodies that you can produce in that software. And then we'll do this. I'll create an asset, and then we will pass it over to you, and then share your screen, and maybe you will do some cool shaders.
A different asset, yeah, from this one.
Yeah, like some cool shading, and maybe like, you know, like a sci-fi dick with some chrome effects. And
You need to move away from the dick idea.
no, it's good. It's good.
I've got a cool shader up here. It's quite detailed. It's part of the latest lesson, so I just wanted to kind of help break that down a little bit further.
Yeah. So you
for
already
your guys who are on my course.
all good, man. All good. So you already know Fusion 360 a little bit, right?
A little
Wow.
bit, but
A little bit.
I keep losing it a little bit. You know what I mean? You need to stay in the software to. It's not like riding a bike yet for me.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm in the stacking phase.
You definitely want to. It's like one of those things that you just have to do and do over and over. Otherwise, you just keep forgetting.
Yeah.
There's few interesting things that they added, and Curtis Chan actually gonna join us next week on Thursday. Curtis is a guy who works in over at Autodesk. He's the evangelist for Fusion 360, and he's just like balls deep in that software. He's like really knowledgeable, and obviously because he's the evangelist, and he's been our guest for a couple of times already, and yeah, he just said he'll be back, so that's great. I'm gonna drill him for for shortcuts, for keyboard shortcuts that we still don't have. But they added this one thing which is kind of interesting, is when you press S key, you get like the model toolbox, and you can pretty much add anything here. So it's like, it reminds me of...
Right. Simplifies.
it simplifies a lot of things. So, and it appears where your cursor is. So that's kind of cool. And it reminds me Maya's, right click, where you right click and then drag, and that creates an action, right? Like that's how you would operate mostly in Maya.
Yeah.
So this is great. However, I still want some shortcuts, dude. Some of the shortcuts are still already here. Like if you, let's say, hover, you can see the line is for, like, L is for line. But, you know, I want to have an ability to actually change those. So, yeah.
Do you have like a library of shapes as well that you've created that you can drag in?
Oh, yeah. So I've made already like a bunch of assets. So I have inserts. Inserts are basically my assets that I like drag and drop and cut out from. Like, for instance, let's look at this one.
Yep.
I actually pressed open. That's not what I wanted to do, actually. Let me do this instead. So I don't like to work with the history because it just limits the amount of things I can do. Oh, I need to save this first. All right, let me save it. Okay, so what I do is I insert into a current design, and it appears in the design. You can move it around. I'm just gonna move it out of the way, and let's actually create some assets right here.
While you're doing that, I'm just gonna try and find those assets I was talking about.
Sure.
The tileable texture maps.
Gotcha.
I'll see if I can download them.
Do it. Do it.
And the issue is going back, trying to find them through your own media, and there's so many photos.
Yeah.
Where?
So let me actually do some more complicated stuff where like the surface is like bent.
Okay,
like
so
this.
yeah, all I need to demonstrate the material stuff is just a piece that has convex and concave shapes. You know?
Is that gonna be fine? What I'm trying to do here is show you how I would operate. So
yeah, of course.
So there's so I've been trying Moi recently as well, which has some of those operations simplified, and I kind of wish it was working this way in Fusion. However, you could do it. You could do a lot of things in Fusion here still. So this is one of those, like aligning more than one item would be great. So right now I cannot do that, it seems. But what I would do is I would just basically use the move tool and just move it to place, especially if it's like bent surface and if it's more than one item. Because if it's like if it's just one item, then I would use align and it's very straightforward. But if it's more than that, then I kind of want to use the move tools just to basically put it in the right place. So let's say I put this here. Shit. This one was alright, and then duplicate it, move it along some of those normals and put it right here. And then I would just boolean that shit here. So the way I've created those assets is I made like cut-in points, or like the shell that is around this. So if I open this file right here, you can see that this thing has like the box. So basically this is sort of like the insert, but it's empty inside, right?
Right.
And if it's empty inside, that means if I try to boolean that stuff out of the surfaces, it will keep the empty stuff, which is something
you're just creating.
Yeah, you don't want to have that. So I created like additional, like millimeter thickness that is outside, and it's just like a regular box with the same amount of fillets and whatnot, and then copy it together. So when I boolean, you can see that it already automatically becomes like this part that is just sticking out, and I'm only booleaning in one part, and then all the other parts are basically insert. So yeah, it's like it's like inserting the whole mesh into your design, basically. That's basically what it does. So
how much would something like that slow down as you get crazier and crazier?
Let me actually open some of the Ghost files, and this is the techniques, and this is the way I worked on when I was working on Ghost in the Shell. That's basically how I would work. So let me open like I think this is a good example. This is a pretty large file. Damn, thanks for sub.
There we go. I see. What do I see there? Cyberarm lamp.
Cyberarm.
That could be cool. That could be cool.
I created some weird stuff. Oh, this is a good one too. I'll open it up again. Open it up again.
My name is Jeff.
All right. So
these things are downloading. They've got 7 minutes left. By the way, I'll send you the link. I'll send you the link to them.
We got time.
They're different. They're different from the ones you sent me.
So you can see this on the screen, right? Like, I've created this arm, and you can see how many parts it has right here. It's like a list of bodies and some of the mirror parts, and some of the groups here are obsolete. Obviously, I didn't clean it up, but you can zoom in and you can see like all the little rivets and stuff like that. So it is a lot of geometry. Like if you actually get it to like the poly modeling or like put it in the I don't know, 3ds Max or something, like this becomes pretty heavy geometry. It's like probably 1 million, maybe 2 million polygons or something like that. And then obviously you have to, like, what I would usually do is like put it in 3ds Max and then weld the vertices, like convert to editable poly, weld vertices, and then from there I would go in and maybe use like Pro Optimizer or something like that to basically just make numbers smaller. You could also export as OBJ and put it in ZBrush and then work it there, like with the decimation master. That could work pretty well too. So, but I didn't feel a need to do it there. This one was interesting one because I'll open it up, because that was like a collaboration with Vitali actually. Some of the parts of that model that I'm opening right now were from Vitali. Let me open it up.
How do you handle the filleting on a massive object? Because you wouldn't necessarily need to fillet every edge if you use the bump correctly in V-Ray.
So the way I found out that works best is when you have the major shapes, right? Done. Then you just find. So I used to make a mistake to fillet like even the slightest edges, which was a mistake, obviously, because it just adds tremendous amount of geometry, and it's not really adding any detail, which you can already get from like micro or like edge smoothing in V-Ray material, right? Like the edge text.
The edge bump, yeah,
edge bump. So I think this is an example. Actually, some of them are pretty good, but there are some edges that were unnecessarily beveled here. Actually, no, this is pretty clean. I used to do that mistake before, but so the base of this model, like the top, that was made by Vitali. So a lot of details that you see around here, like those little details over here, are actually Vitali's. But then I took this and populated the whole bottom of it with my own details. So stuff like this was his, but then those boxes here, those sticking out parts, this part right here, some of the parts added here, I created myself. So it's just like took his file and work with it. And
do you want to send me as an OBJ or something?
This one?
Yeah, I don't know if you can or not, but I can at least show you.
I don't think I can. That's the problem.
No worries. No worries. I just need some kind of test object directly from the CAD so I can show you on your stuff.
Oh yeah. So let me go back to my parts folder, and I should have some bigger parts here.
Imagine if I got like one of Vitali's biggest models, just made some crazy shaders for it.
That'll be fun. That would definitely be fun. By the way, Kalina is gonna help us with questions today, so thank you for that.
Oh, nice.
I could send you this little wall.
Yeah, one of the questions is, Grant, what about rounded edge shader in Max? And yeah, it works good. You just use the V-Ray edges texture. It's different now than it was, but it's the same texture in Max. It just has a different algorithm used. I think NVIDIA patented the edge smoothing and wouldn't license it to anyone because they were trying to get iRay in the market, and now that that's out of the way, nice details.
So like this stuff here, this is unnecessary bevel. Like this fillets right here on those edges, that was a mistake. It looks
so good.
It's a mistake because like from this, you will not see it closer than this, and from this distance, it's so easy to do it in the shader, and it costs nothing. Whereas when you do it, like it doesn't cost much in doing it in CAD as well, but it's just like it limits the amount of work you can do with the geometry later on.
How big is that piece?
I don't think I worked in scale on that one.
Okay.
This is not too like we're gonna probably have to rescale it. This is in millimeters, so it's like 2 centimeters. That's a little bit too small.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, this is the wrong scale, obviously.
No worries. What is this thing? It's like a vent, an exhaust vent.
It's like a wall attachment, sort of
Yeah.
mini laser or some shit. I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
No scale. Don't know what it is. Just making random
exactly.
shapes.
Just make it really cool, random shapes. This was fun to work on too. Like this is the stuff I created. This is one of the first models. Again, like those micro bevels right here on those surfaces, completely unnecessary. Like I wish I haven't done them because the model would be so much easier to edit and operate with. Like this could be some, like, I don't know, attachment on the mech or something, you know, that kind of stuff. And that wasn't too hard to make. Those shapes here are very easy to produce, basically, very easy to do, and a lot of those details that you see are just booleans and super easy stuff. Like this is not anything hard to do. I found that Moi has probably the easiest way to do booleans from all the software.
So what did you think compared to Fusion?
So there's things I like and things I dislike. And let me go back to my design right here. So one of the things you will not be able to do in Moi, and it's a bummer because that would be a, you know, a game changer if they had that. The Moi has, like, for me it's like right now it's a mix. There's a few things that I'll definitely do in Moi. Like I'll not even touch in Fusion because I know Moi is great for it. Like they have the function for flow, which basically allows you to bend it's like FDD box but on NURBS surfaces. So it's really great. But
oh, really?
Yeah, it's like one-dimensional FDD box. Let's put it this way.
But does it ruin the booleans that have already happened through it, or is that the whole point? You can move the shape as the boolean updates.
It should update.
Sorry, you can move the FFD as the boolean updates.
The way it works is like you set up a starting shape, and then you set up the ending shape. And what it does, it's try to conform towards the ending shape as a final result. So you're gonna have a copy of it. Like it's not something that you could do real time like in Max.
Yeah.
But you can still do that operation on CAD file, which you
right.
can't do here. So if I had a box like this and I would want to have like those weird organic shapes around it, I would just have to start cutting. Whereas in Moi, you could just set up flow and flow it to like edited boolean, like edited FDD box like shape, and it will be like bending shit around it. So
Jesus.
But Moi doesn't have this, where you can just select surface, and this is kind of crazy because this is a solid model, right? This is a CAD solid parametric model, and it's crazy because I don't think any other software does that when it comes to this specific type of geometry, or it's not even geometry, it's a solid, where you can just select any of the faces. It's almost like, and almost make it like it's a polymodeling stuff where you can just rotate it. Like that's so cool. This is something that is just when I discovered that you can do that, it was a game changer for me. Literally.
Wow.
Because like, yeah, so for instance, I like where this is going, and I would want to have, you know, maybe this thing here slightly you know, bent like this. Like you cannot do that in Moi, and that's a bummer because that would be awesome. But this already adds, like, this looks so much more interesting than this.
Now you can rotate that as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, my normal workflow would be pretty much like this, you know, where I would just start with, you know, a shape and then start cutting in it. And this is probably where I will need to move this line, actually. Because otherwise it's just gonna intersect with the booleans that I've done before. So that's something you have to be aware of as well.
So while you're doing that, I'm just getting the last bit of
Yeah.
this scene file prepared.
Yeah, there you have it. But yeah, it's pretty much my workflow, and that's how I did this in when I worked on Ghost. And for those who are interested, if you want to learn that stuff, I've already been teaching that, and my futuristic character design class basically has, I think, 2 lessons with Fusion 360. 2 out of 8 lessons are in Fusion 360, and I teach basically how I did that. So, yep, there you have it.
So all these pieces on the left, we can't use any of them.
No, those that I have here, we could use them.
Mm-hmm.
We could definitely use them because those are mine. Those are the stuff that I've. This is the
scroll through again. Let me see the library.
This is just like old stuff that I've built like 2 years ago.
Oh right.
Yeah, so that's my like personal stuff. So we could definitely use that. I'll open like 2 of the most complicated. I did that frame, and I think I already gave you that one before.
Yep.
You were showing me some edge stuff, and then when I was learning this was one of the first pieces that I was doing when I was learning. I was just looking at Vitali's tank, and I was trying to see like how does he get those details out, and I was trying to do my like own version of it. Never used it anywhere. But, it gave me like a good idea what works and what doesn't, and
that's
I was
cool.
It's one of those things where you take something where you don't focus on the design that much, but you focus on tools and how you get specific problems solved by experimenting with those tools. And that was this one was exactly that. That was this kind of exercise, and
I like that shape.
And it helped me to understand what I can do and what I cannot do with the software. So that was good. It took me like a week or 2 to build this. Like right now, this would be a day of work maximum. Like get this done in this amount of detail, I wouldn't spend more than a day. But learning it is just like, it just takes time in the beginning, but then once you learn it, then it's all good.
Is that designed to be mirrored?
Yeah. But
yeah, right.
Again, like when you go in, like you see those micro bevels, this is a useless like for me, this is a useless
functional
geometry.
model.
It doesn't like, it's not gonna function because right now when I'm using Fusion 360, I'm trying also to be very cautious about where I'm putting details and what I'm adding here and there and all that kind of stuff. So if I go too crazy with a model like this and with unnecessary details like those micro bevels like here, which make absolutely no sense, then that's becoming a problematic, because this is just one part and I want to have like a full model. And I've shown you some stuff that I did for clients already, Grant, and you know how crazy this goes, right?
Yes.
And if one part is this crazy, then it's just gonna be impossible to work with and burn, like just not even render wise, it's just gonna take much longer because there's so much more geometry to be considered. But yeah.
How extreme can the geometry go if you are filleting everything?
This, you can go
like
to infinity. I mean, there's the beauty about this thing here is it just allows you to go really far, and like really, really far.
Do you want to send me that piece and I'll...
This one?
Yeah, screw it. Why not? It's a pretty difficult piece, but we'll go with it.
Let me see if I can do that for you. I want to make sure I'm not showing my screen in the meantime. Oh, I know what I can do.
So it's so difficult. It gets harder and harder.
It's one of those things because like right now I'm working for a client.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is show. Boom. There we go. Let's see if I can. I don't want to start.
3 screens.
I don't want to start a live session here. That's one of the. God damn it. That's one of the things that Fusion has, where you can basically start a live session and share the session with a client or coworker or something. Yeah, people cannot
pretty
see what I'm
cool.
doing, so it's all good. I just opened Moi 3D, and I'll show you the flow thing in the Moi in a
Because you're
second.
exporting from here, yeah? It's better
Yeah.
export.
So
That's
let me
funny.
see, Grant. I think we already have shared folder. There we have it.
Yes, on Dropbox.
I'll export IG or step file. You should be able to just basically drag and drop it to Max.
Okay, cool.
Because Max reads step files, so it's all good. All right, in the meantime, I'll switch to Moi for a second. And we're going to try to get Michael Gibson, who created Moi, on the stream. We'll see if that happens. That would be awesome to have Michael.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that would be fantastic if that happens. I haven't been using. I've started learning Moi, which is great software too. So let me actually. One of the great things about it is there you go. We have this. Is the shortcuts, like how many shortcuts you can set up. It's just amazing. I love it. For that reason, I love it. Let's see. There we go. Do shape.
There's
like
still something I
this.
love about old school poly modeling. I just
Okay, so I have a surface like this, right?
Yep.
And what I'll show you is the first thing I'll show you is the Boolean stuff, like which I really like. Let me actually. I'm still trying to figure out how to use this properly because I have a lot of shortcuts, but I don't remember most of them. But let's do like a fillet right here, and it's a different philosophy. Let me actually disable grid snap because that's just
and it's all non-destructive. Yeah, if you want to go back and change that curve.
No, actually, you cannot. Like that's one of the advantages. One of the advantages.
Right.
One of the advantages of Fusion 360 is that Fusion 360 is non-destructive. Like there's a lot of things you can go back and change, especially when you work with the design history. In Moi, you cannot do that. So, but that's
how do you avoid making like so many mistakes? Or what if you limit yourself with the curve early on?
Well, to what I understand, this is not what it's created for. Let me actually. God damn it! See, this is where I'm still learning. Let's do this. Let's take this, extrude it all across, and then let's Boolean this shit with this shit. Okay. All right. So I have this sort of like model.
Mm-hmm.
It's very. Let me actually scale it down too. I'll scale it to something smaller. A great thing about Moi, like the biggest part that I really like is shortcuts. Like by far, it's the best thing about this software. Setting up shortcuts. All right, so I have this little nugget here, and I can move it. I don't have to press move tool to move it, so this is great. It's important that it sits in the center, because then just doing kind of any kind of Boolean operations is going to be super easy from here. So I have the orientation of it matters, and the placement of it matters, because the ground surface is considered like the surface to which it's going to align, and then the way it's positioned in the world will matter in which direction it's positioned on the surface. So all you have to do the Boolean is basically select it, Control C for copy, and then Control Shift V will make a copy that you can then start like moving around.
Let's see what happens.
You click it, you press OK, and then when you press right click again, it's repeating the operation. So I can basically put it like in different places.
Just very quickly get the detail up.
So this is where I want to cut, right?
Yep.
So from here, all I do is press B for Boolean, because that's the shortcut I set up. Select the main surface from which I want to Boolean, and then, oops. And then select all those little nuggets right here. And boom, confirm. And you have all the details already cut for you. And you can go with crazy surfaces like I did in Fusion 360.
Wow.
So
is it easy to rotate all of those as you're positioning them?
Yeah, so basically what you do is, let's go back and, C, Control V. Is once you click it, you can select the, I think you can adjust the axis rotation. So you can rotate it by just holding. I'm pretty sure I haven't tried it yet to be as much knowledgeable in terms of like how to rotate and whatnot. But that's one of the things that, like, doing booleans like that with, like, you want to add those small details, let's call it vitality details.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do it here, like super easy. All right, so let me actually boolean again. Let me get rid of those nuggets here so we can cut them in. Let me remove the base, remove those. We don't need them. All right, so I have this surface here, and let's say I want to do the flow thing that I've talked about. So all you have to do is go to let me actually zoom out. Let's say from the top view we want to change the way it flows, right? So what I would start with is I would make like a shape around it, like you would do the FDD box, right? And then you just copy and paste it. You move it to the side or wherever you want to move it. Doesn't matter. It's just like, this is a reference. And then I want to add points. There's an option here, add points and show points. So add points is basically adding points to this, and it will allow you to basically deform it. So I add points. I have shortcut for show points. And then all I do is I select any of those points and like do those little operations. You know, changing the shape, the overall shape.
Yeah.
So let's change it to something like this, and then all you have to do, you go to transform, deform, flow. I have a shortcut for that too. You select the surface or the model that you want to deform, right click to confirm, and then it asks you to select the base curve or surface. So all you do is, like, it's important which corners or which place you click the surface, because if I click it right here in this corner, I want to make sure I click the other surface in the same corner. So when I click it here, you can see it starts deforming the main object towards this. And this is, for me, this is big, because now I can do like deformations like that, right? So I don't have an ability to select, like, I wish I had an ability to select like this surface here and be able to move it around like I do in Fusion.
Like you can.
But I can't.
A mixture of the two softwares.
Yeah, so for me it's a mixture of two, and it's very easy to work with both. So right now here you can save it as IGS or step files are probably the best, and you could also use step files in Fusion, and you just go back and forth. It takes time to import, but I've noticed that the time for me to export and then go here and then use this software to do like the little, you know, add those little nuggets and add like deformations and whatnot. This is much faster inside of Moi, like way faster. So
jeez.
So there you have it. That's one of the most exciting parts about this. So, and I have like completely different UI, by the way. There's the starter UI looks completely different. Actually gonna have a stream with Ash where I'm gonna sit down with him and walk him through how to get the UI to look like this, because there's a lot of add-ins and whatnot. When you start with Moi, once you buy it, you have none of those shortcuts here.
Oh shit.
Like none of those are there. And the way I have all of them here is basically I copy pasted it from Chip Walters and then edit it to my liking. So and then added some of my own shortcuts here too. There's a lot of like self-explanatory things like open, network, mirror, paste, cut. Like all of those things are super super straightforward. But then you have script, grid snap, and like whatever the fuck it means, right? But that's for like turning on and off the grid snap. So you have to press G to basically on and off the grid snap, and it's not as easy as adding a shortcut saying G for grid snap, right? Adding shortcuts is very easy here too, because all you have to do is type in, like, I don't know, Alt plus T, and that would be for I don't even know what that would be for. Trim. And then it works. And that's it. And usually the name of the operation should work, but sometimes the name operation doesn't work because it's named here completely different than the actual script in the software. So like a good example would be, let's see, I have a shortcut for where is it? Curve. Like Shift F creates a curve, but in software it's called control freeform control points.
Really?
Yeah. So like, what is it? Like, I don't understand, but
yeah, that's just like teething though. They'll work on that as time goes on.
But yeah, like you start, like you buy it and you look at it, it's like, fuck, like I paid $200 for a stripped down version of SketchUp, you know? That's how it feels when you open it first, and then
because the tools aren't there in front of your face.
Tools are there, but they're not exposed. Like you have to always like modify and do everything. So we're gonna have a stream on that, definitely. Some of you might be asking, like, what is the reason, Maciej, you're using this all of those software, and like why not painting? It's because when I create this model, and you know, when you're gonna render it, let me know when you're ready so we can switch screens too. It just allows me to do a lot more things with the software and with everything. Let me actually pull up my Ghost in the Shell works so I can show you guys. And this is where it's all leading to. I'm pretty sure a lot of you can watch my friend Jama Drbayev doing crazy stuff in you know, 3D code. And when I talked with Eitan recently on the stream, Eitan for me is like one of the best in terms of painting environments. He's using heavily 3D. He's using, you know, Modo and 3D code. So when you look through the work that I've done for Ghost in the Shell, apart from some of the painted stuff like the outfits, because they are still easier for me to paint, I could do them in Marvelous Designer, which is something I already did here. You know, when you look through the geishas, I created those with Marvelous Designer and Octane. That's basically how I worked on those, and that was very easy to do. And the great part about this was the moment I wanted to change the shader, because like those two models are the same, but changing shader for me was 5 minutes and then render.
Yeah.
Whereas painting this would take forever, like with the right
to
amount,
redo each iteration
and get the lighting right,
and
make it look realistic. Like you could do that.
You still paint over a little bit, yeah.
Like those are pure renders. Like apart from hair, I only added hair on those and some of the faces, you know, because I'm not a ZBrush master, so forget me doing that kind of stuff. But it's basically all of those is basically DAZ 3D model with some little edits in Fusion 360 and 3ds Max. All of the things you see here, like this stuff, I teach in my futuristic character design. Like the subject matter is different, but the methods and the workflows are exactly the same. In matter of fact, I did that class directly after finishing working on Ghost in the Shell, and pretty much applying everything I've learned working on that show to my class. So, but everything here, like a lot of those things are 3D, and then I use my Photoshop skills obviously to add like details and, you know, some photography and textures to add like faces and whatnot. But like this is basically a render of smoothed out Daz face to get like the cool reflections, and then place that on top of like face and some other like editing, and then the cloth itself, it's completely 3D. Like there's nothing I added here that would be photoshopped. It's just 3D. And the beauty of it is just like if I get a call from director and he says, hey, can I see how it looks from the back? Like I'm not gonna spend another day to paint it, because it would take me a whole day again to paint it from scratch, get the right proportions and whatnot. No, I just rotate the camera, press render, and it's done. Like I don't even have to worry about any of that. And Weta did an amazing job. They took it and then like did more iterations with the face and all that. So, but yeah, like this was basically Daz 3D model that I took into Fusion 360 and started breaking it apart. Or actually, no, this was broken apart in Max. So I started doing the lines in 3ds Max, but the interiors of it was done in Fusion 360. So one of the reasons why I'm talking about Fusion 360 is exactly because of that, because all of the work that I've done for Ghost in the Shell, not all of it, but a lot of it was done this way. And even when you look at some of that work here with the cyborgs, some of the parts are rendered, like they're rendered in overpaint, because it's so much easier to build a simple shape like this and then render it out with the right lighting and then overpaint. It's just gonna get you much more realistic results quicker. Whereas painting it, like you have to start thinking about form, you have to think about perspective, you have to think about lighting, you have to think about materials, and there's just so many things that can go wrong that will not make the objects look realistic. So Gypney as well, I should have Gypney right here in Ghost in the Shell vehicles. Let's see if it's here. I might have unfinished model. I already shown some of that. But the Gypney here would be, yeah, like this would be a mix of render and Photoshop, obviously. But like for instance, the APC, the armored personal carrier, was almost completely done in 3D. Then there's small things like this little edge right here that I photoshopped, and some small details like this inner parts right here, like small tiny details here and there, like little stickers here on the side, little you know, very very tiny details that just take a few minutes to do. I've did it in Photoshop, but like this, yeah, this is probably, that's not a finished model.
You wait until you're 90% of the way there, and then you. I'm ready to go. By the way.
Okay, we'll switch screens in a moment.
Yeah, no worries.
But I'll just open the this model right here real quick. I've lost a lot of files, by the way. Like I've set up RAID to basically be as safe as possible, and then I lost a lot of files.
Oh no!
So I built this in Fusion, and you can see quite a lot, if not most, details from this render are here. And then I also had a separate, like, this was like a separate grill in front of it that I added, like this stuff. So I built this separately for this model, and and it's all like then just like a regular metal shader in Octane rendered, and boom, like, and then you can just rotate around and like you could. It's so easy to make an illustration out of it, like put some DAS 3D models around it, put this on the street, and then just like start painting on top. You just saved yourself like, 2 days of work by setting up the scene correctly. And then what if you set up a scene? That's the way I work right now. Like I would set up a scene like this in 3D and then make a couple of different camera angles and lighting scenarios and send it to director. And then director would say like, I like this one. And then we'll just choose that one and finish it as painting. And I don't have to start a sketch and start painting. And then somewhere half the way, I'll get the call from director. Hey, can we actually move the camera like 45 degrees to the left? Like, fuck. That means I'm starting over. Like, not with this. This is just like the more you advance you get in 3D, the more easier it's to edit it later on. So super easy and super straightforward. Doom, 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 boom, boom. All right, let me open up my Moy. So I can. I gotta have a better transitions, guys. By the way, but I want to make sure that Grant's screen is shared with you guys. So I'll make him a presenter. Boom. Let me know, Grant, when you're.
Yeah, should be sharing my main screen yet. You can see 3ds Max.
There we have it. All right. There we go, guys. Check it out. See. Dude, the reflections on the helmet look like skull.
No, it's cool. Such a simple material. Such a simple material. Just got in the reflection color, just a gradient based on fall off. All
right, as you're at it, I'll check what questions we had, because we had a few.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is Fusion...
How much time do I have, by the way?
As long as you want. I can probably run it for another 30, 40 minutes. Then I'll
we can do 30 minutes.
Okay, let's do 30 minutes. And
I'll try and squeeze as much in as I can.
Sure. And in the meantime, I'll just go and answer some questions. All right. So first question was, is Fusion export mesh ready for production, or do you retopo them in Max and Maya? So Fusion basically is a CAD software, and it's that. And basically what it does is it saves IGS and step files. You can also save STL files, which are basically like equivalent of OBJs, but they're more for like printing. Or you can just import them and turn them into OBJs. You can actually upload your Fusion file to the cloud and then go on the cloud itself and export OBJs from there. But it's all going to be triangles. Like none of that is going to be quads and perfectly nice mesh. If that was the case, then there was a lot of people who would lose jobs. And I think we're working towards it in terms of technology, which is great. That's kind of fun about... Something fun about technology and running business and all that stuff is you're putting yourself out of work when you're teaching people your methods, and you're putting yourself out of work. But the great thing about it is the greatest thing about that is it pushes you to
learn more stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then you become better. So that's the purpose of it. But anyway, so you can export OBJs, yes, but they're never going to be production ready, or at least not now. I know 3D Code has amazing retopology tools. You could also use ZBrush Z-Remesher, which is gonna create a pretty dense mesh, and you might lose some details along the way, but it's still gonna be quad. In most cases, you have to consider what's production ready. If you mean production ready so that it can be used for video games assets, or it can be used for like VFX production, no. Then someone has to take it and rebuild it basically, or retopologize. If you mean production ready that someone can take the CAD files and print out or mill the actual assets for the film, yes, because that's basically what we did with Ghost in the Shell. I made my guns and weapons in Fusion 360. A lot of stuff that I made for vehicles in Fusion 360 was printed directly from my files as well, so there was no reason for retopology or anything like that. So that's obviously great. But yeah, it's not gonna be clean. It's not like you're gonna have sub D model out of CAD. That would be amazing, but that's probably not gonna happen anytime soon. I wish it was the case, because that would just make the whole process incredibly easy for artists, incredibly easy, and it would be a game changer in terms of speed of creating like really complicated assets. But I think we're still long away from there. Another question was, do you have any tips on work efficiency in Fusion? I have an expensive rig, but it seems I can't handle big scenes, usually over 600 bodies. I would say really big scenes, you just have to start breaking down. And the way I would work is I treat Fusion 360 as sort of asset builder rather than scene builder. I rather build scenes in Max, or you know, you could use XSI or Maya or anything like that. The reason is 3ds Max, like once you start importing geometry into like 3D package, especially Max is pretty good, and Maya is even better from what I hear in terms of handling massive amount of polygons. I think XSI is the king of it. It just can handle, and the testament of it, just watch the Vitali's the stream when we had Vitali with the Ghost in the Shell. His major skeleton and the body that he created for the shelling sequence was basically,
it's pretty stupid.
it was 15 million or 18 million polygons prior to subdivisions. Like, just to give you a scale of, and it was like thousands of mini parts. It was just insane. It was insane. Just bear in mind. And that's not, you cannot do that in Fusion. There's no way that you can handle it all in Fusion. So so what I would do is just like create something that you're really happy with, and then go back and forth with your 3D software. Just export those elements and keep adding it there. A good way of working is, let's say you want to have, like, you're building a robot. Like, that's a great example. And you create like a low poly mesh in Max or Maya or something, and you import that as a reference to Fusion 360 and create. You can actually, if it's a quad model, you can actually convert it to T-splines in Fusion and then convert that into a body object and work directly on that. Or you could basically try to redo the whole thing in Fusion, which is always a possibility too, and then just go to town in details, you know. So so that's always a way of doing it. But yeah, 600 bodies, depending on how complicated they are, will definitely slow down your computer. And by the way, in Moi, as awesome as it is, it's 32-bit, so it's even worse. Like, you have a memory limit of 4 gigs, which makes it impossible.
Okay. Have you got any geometry for me, or do you want me to use this one? Or
I've sent it to.
Oh, you have?
The Dropbox, yeah.
Okay, let me check.
Should have it in Dropbox. Do you want me to blank your screen for a second, or?
No, I'm good. I've learned.
My name is Jeff.
Let me just see if it's synced. What's the folder called?
I can't remember, but it's in Grant folder.
Yeah, it's not updating. I'll get it manually.
In the meantime,
Wow!
freaking test.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Plate
We got
mech
this on board.
rework. Okay.
I can't remember how I called it. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think I've got it here.
Hey Grant, any tips for making a plastic sheet material like this one in Ghost. Let me actually open up the link that was sent. Oh yeah, actually you could you'll definitely be able to show a better example. I've sent you on Skype the link to it.
Okay, just a sec.
So plastic, what is the IOR of plastic?
1.6 about.
So
1.
The way you set it up is in V-Ray, and it's pretty much in Octane as well. You go to refraction and you set up refraction to 1.6, and then
index of reflection.
Index of reflection.
Yeah.
But what is the refraction index for that? Is there? I think it's the same, right?
Yeah, technically. I mean, if you're translucent objects from memory, you know, I mean, they can have different values. It doesn't have to be the same, you know. Like if you can have a glass, for example, is different.
Right.
The glass is as reflective as it is refractive, but if you had a translucent plastic, that might not necessarily be the case.
Okay. But I mean, the easiest way is just to make it the same, and then obviously adjust it as you go.
Well, yeah, unless the material has any refraction, you don't even need to worry about it.
Damn, son.
Okay,
Yeah.
bring the model in here. Let's see. There we go.
But yeah, so I would just set it up to 1.6 in both to start with. Then the refractive glossiness would basically define how blurry is the translucency, and then from there you just go from there, like adding texture to refractiveness and whatnot. I would say this: take Grant's mastering V-Ray class. Like even if you're not using V-Ray, if you're using Octane or any other software, what I can tell you, because I took his class and I went through it. This is how I learned how to use V-Ray and how I learned how to create my shaders too. Is Grant is very good at setting up shaders. Just gonna, suck your dick right here. He's very good at setting up shaders and making things look realistic. And once you learn how to set up shaders and understand the shader workflow, you can apply the same workflow to pretty much any render engine, whether it's Octane, whether it's V-Ray, Arnold, anything like that. You can just basically do whatever the hell you want. So
I would say at the moment the two render engines that you can do what I'm doing in here, the only two really are FStorm and V-Ray. Just in terms of every feature available, you know what I mean?
Got it.
So I've got your model up here. Now, because we don't have time to obviously break down every single feature of the shader, instead I want to break down the theory around how to get a shader looking better, and looking at it from a theoretical point of view, where even though you might not put in the same extreme detail on every part of the shader, still incorporate at least a basic version of each. Yeah. So the way I look at materials now, right, is, and you can do it two different ways inside of V-Ray. You can do it the way which is more like Photoshop, where you've got the old material editor, and you can see that this material is just a base material. So it's just yellow metal, for example. Then over the top of that, I'll blend a slightly different version of that and blend it with a fall off. So it's the first two layers are still essentially the same metal, but you're just using that additional layer to change the surface properties of the base. Then as you go up, you've got to factor in the concave parts of the model and the convex parts of the model. So you've got the areas where there's going to be dust accumulating in the crevices, on the areas where you need stuff like just dust, grime, rust, anything like that. Then you've got to factor in not only the concave areas, but the convex areas also. So you can see on my shader here, it's very subtle, but every edge is kind of prominent because in the shader, I've got this shiny edge section on, which is being blended based on the convexity of the model using the dirt. So you just go up through the details, right? So the first two are the base material. Then you've got like the worn out edges that are on the exposed areas. Then for the rust, you can see I've actually broken it down into 3 different sizes. So I've got the large scale rust, which will spread out fairly far. And this is all dependent on the scene scale. This is why it's important to keep things to scale. Then there's like the medium rust, which changes its properties as you got to realize as things like grime and soot build up, the properties of that material change. And you get kind of transition periods sometimes in reality where there might be like tons of dust in the most hard to get areas, but then in some areas it's kind of spread out and it's a mixture of both. So on top of that, if you go even further up, on top of that, you go even further up for the rust, you might have, like I said, in the darkest areas, you can see there's no reflection on the material. It just becomes completely dark because the dust is so built up that it's just scattering the reflections too much. So then over the top of that, you put the dust layer, which goes obviously over the top of the rust. You've got to factor in the way the material's aging in reality. You know, it's getting rusty, and then the dust is building up over the top of that. And then lastly, at the very end, I've got just a simple occlusion that I put over the top, and that's just to bring out shape. You see a lot of the times people will render out an occlusion pass and then overlay it in post at the end and just include it where they want. I'm just doing that in the shader. So yeah, the beauty of setting it up like this is, and it's a little bit slow to render it this way, obviously. I'm not saying it's not slow, but you've got complete control over the aging of the material relatively quickly. So say I want less of those exposed edges.
If you disable those layers,
yep, I can disable all of those layers.
And it's going to render faster, basically.
Yeah, yeah. It's not incorporating any of that stuff now. So you can see the point I'm trying to make here, though, is that on each of these layers, you can use these modularly. So once you've created that shader, I can go plug that layer into another shader I'm doing. So for someone like you who's doing a lot of this CAD work where the models are coming out the same style, similar scales, you know, you can start to build up a library just like you have of parts, but for materials. So the easiest way, and this is where the power of using this workflow comes in. Let's just say, for example, I start out with a new material. The first thing I'll do when building material is just look at the way that, it could crash at any moment here. The first thing I'll do is look at the way the V-Ray dirt material reacts to the model. So we've got some stuff rendering here. And I've obviously got a lot of post work applied, so that's why the color's not coming out exact.
Right.
But okay, so let's just zoom in here, just so you can see. Now, right now, what I've got applied is simple. Wow, that's distracting. Just a simple V-Ray material.
Wow. You said wow? What the fuck?
The difference I want to talk about with doing this over using a standard map, the method I'm about to show you, is that using an output gives you control over the intensity of the blend. So the first thing I'll do is create a composite map.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to make 2 layers here. The base layer, I'm going to make solid black. So I'm just going to make a V-Ray color here. So at the base, we've just got pure black. Then at the top, we're going to add pure white. Now you'll see that the whole thing becomes white again. Now in the blend, in the past, I would just simply not have the composite map here. I would just put the dirt material straight away. So I can duplicate this up and do it that way. Just duplicate this. I can just put a V-Ray dirt in here and start testing it out.
Yeah. That's what you
right. And we see the results straight away. It's all good. But the problem is no matter how hard I adjust the distribution of these things, we don't have the additional control that putting things in an output gives you by adjusting the multiplier of the effect.
Yeah.
So like you said in Octane, for example, the power.
Yeah.
So now I can put an output in the blend amount for that white area. So anything I put in this mask is going to reveal where the white goes based on this map. So now I can put the output, and obviously you know all this. I'm just explaining this for the guys. Now in here, this is where I put the dirt. Yeah, this is where I put the dirt.
Yeah. So output is in front of the dirt, so we can have the extra control over the strength of it.
Okay. So what I've done is I've applied that. Now remember, this is a mask.
Yep.
So this has to show where you want the material you're trying to work with to show. You need to put the occluded area white. So you flip that. Now in real time, obviously I'm working in the IPR mode. You know, I can start adjusting things like the scale, but the additional control I've got now is in the RGB level of this output. I can start ramping this up, and we get that power option.
Yeah.
So what it allows me to do is I can go really high on the blend here.
Make it really dirty.
Yeah, make it really dirty, or dusty, or whatever it is, and then go in and start working with textures and stuff like that, or the distribution.
And that's, by the way, that's the 3.5, right?
Yes, this is 3.5.
Is Maya having a 3.5 update yet?
It's
should be, right?
Oh, it's hard to keep up to date with everything.
Let me actually check in the meantime. But yeah, keep going. I'll check.
Okay, so you can see right now, right? Say we've got an area, some materials, the transition between the two, for example, dust or something, it can be very sudden. It might not necessarily fade off like what you're used to seeing with dirt. For example, when we go here, you know, we see an effect like that. You know, it's very soft. Now that can be awesome. You know, you can use that to great effect. But by not using this dirt method, this output method, you lose the ability to create those really strong transitions. So I can go high again on the radius, get rid of the fall off, and push the distribution wherever I kind of want. Go quite far back here. If I go smaller, remember, this is a mask. So once it goes above 1, it's not like it's damaging the material or blending it any differently. It's just allowing whatever other material you have to come through. So I can go really high on the RGB level here, and you just get a much, much more solid transition. All right. So now I've got the composite material here. I've just set this up. It's obviously not a V-Ray material yet. I'm just using that so you can see kind of how I'm blending different areas of the metal. So say, for example, I've got this dirt here. If I go into a V-Ray material at the base, just make a new V-Ray material, apply this. And like I was saying to you, just setting up a very quick chrome, I can go negatively on the IOR, go to 0.18 for example. I'll get rid of all of the diffuse, and then I'll just change the glossiness. Now one of the things, like for example with Vitali's work, one of the things that I could see where the materials could just be improved really quickly is just having a more complicated system to darken off the reflections. Yeah. Because in reality, you've got to focus on it from a theoretical point of view. A perfect material straight out of the factory obviously isn't going to have any of the dust or grime, but it's still important to realize you don't want everything to look perfect because it's going to look CG. So one of the things I can see a lot of people, the mistake they make is they don't put the right detail into masking off the reflection. So at the moment, the reflection's pure white, but I don't want that in the crevices. So I can paste this map. And now I've got control over where the object is actually reflective. So this is where you kind of got to realize that I'm not going to change the the mask here, I just need to go in now and change and invert the actual colors. So that in the crevice areas, I've got the black coming through, and then in the unoccluded areas,
yep,
I've got this. So now we've got that really nice transition where the material, you know, is working, and I can just start playing with that stuff.
And that's in your, is it already in your new lesson, or?
This, I'm going to do an update. Now, I'm always updating, you know what I mean, in the lessons. Yeah. Anytime I've got something new, I will bump it up. And I will, in the latest lesson, I will cover this stuff. So that's the whole point of the lesson, just to break down where I'm at now with my material creation workflow. But I just like I like now that I've transitioned to using the output anytime I use the dirt, because it's giving you that additional control. It keeps the workflow the same. So at any point, say I've got that, you know, the reflection's darkened off too much, the only control you have without this method is to get it looking like that. With that RGB value of 1, you can see that even though in the dirt areas, you know, it's pure white, it's just not darkening off the reflection enough.
Yeah.
You don't have that, you know, so maybe 5 is too strong, and you can just start playing with it. You know, even 1.5 can work well.
Yeah.
You know, you just start creating those shapes. Now this workflow, it works identically for
pretty much anything, right?
Reflections. Yeah. So say now on the diffuse, I want to bring out some of the shape on the edges. And I spoke to you on private chat about this the other day with movie props, right? The reason why I think movie props can look better than, say, just a photo of a regular piece of army gear is because they're doing custom painting to actually accentuate the details on the design. You know, like on the edges, they're using that like powdering to bring out some shapes. They did it on the Iron Man material just to bring it out. So say, for example, on the diffuse now, I can paste that mask, except this time in the dirt, I just keep everything the same, but if I invert the normal, and let's go down on the radius, now I've got control over the edges, the exposed edges. And now once again, if I go out, you can see the RGB level here is set to 65. The maximum amount of control I have without using the output is if I set it to 1, and you can see the effect is it's a bit softer. You know, it looks more powdery. You don't get that really quick transition that if I go straight up. So now I can go down and just start playing with the size.
Yeah, this is the part that got me really hooked into to V-Ray, because it's just like it's so easy to control. It's all procedural. And then like right now it looks like lines, but I'm pretty sure you're gonna add like texture to it, and
of course,
slowly gonna become this really cool stuff.
So a material, it only really has 3 components. You've got a procedural material like my workflow. It's only got the 3 areas. You've got the crevices, you've got the exposed areas, and then you've just got the in between. So you've got the occluded areas, the unoccluded areas, and that basically controls it. So say for example, I don't want this exposed edge to come through everywhere. I know that because this material is a mask, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This material here is a mask. I can do a whole bunch of different stuff to control the way that individual mask is working. The simplest way is to adjust it inside the dirt itself. So for example, I can go into the radius now. You know, everyone's seen this workflow now before, but I just want to show how you can mix it up just to vary it on large scale surfaces. Because when you're doing procedural stuff, you don't want it to look tileable. You know, you don't want it to look obvious. You want it to, that's the skill, making it work on a large scale surface that's got a bunch of randomization in it without seeing that tile pattern come through.
Dude, we could go for hours, because like I asked you one question about the distance tags, which basically allows you to set up a shader where, depending on the object proximity, something gonna show up or disappear, and it's just like the extra step for making procedural stuff look not procedural, but more like handcrafted, where you can literally create object materials that going to be acting like a proxies, and will define basically define for you where specific reflection is going to show up, or where the specific diffuse material is going to show up, and it's all in shader. Someone asked about, you know, how different this is from Substance Painter, for instance, and I think I said it already a couple of times. Is obviously Substance Painter are going to add like a lot of more complexity and more detail. But if you want to set up a shader procedurally, and something that you don't go like full on, but you want to have really, really amazing results without going too detailed, and it's all inside of shader, like you could already do that in V-Ray. And for instance, for something that I do, like if I would, let's say a hypothetical scenario where I'm setting up a surface of like, I don't know, I'm building like a 3D corridor, like sci-fi corridor, right? The best way to do it is basically build it in 3D, by the way, because then you can light it, have so much control over how it's going to look. This workflow allows me to get like 99% there, because any other detail I can just add in Photoshop, like any kind of like artistic touch or breaking the tileability. It's so easy to add later on, but this is already getting you so much in terms of like getting dirt, getting like different edges and whatnot. And I think someone also mentioned like you know, sticking to keyshot instead, because it just like seems like a lot of steps you have to take in order to get something to look good. And that's true. You know, if for setting up a really quick render where you wanna have something that just looks alright and looks good, like good enough, where you just drag and drop shaders, I would stick to keyshot myself as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, look, there is specific software designed for this to make these things work. You know what I mean? I've never denied that, and I've always said, if you want to really go in and do crazy stuff, learn things like Substance and Quixel. But the thing is, it's not essential. And if you're one of those people that prefers to get good or really good at a few smaller pieces of software, then branching out and learning, like to some people, the idea of learning a whole new piece of texturing software like Substance when they're in the ArcViz field and they just need to make things look a little bit more worn out and grunged out, it's not, you know, it's not really needed to go to that extreme length.
Yeah, it's not needed for me either. And to be honest, like the least amount of software I can use in my workflow, so I don't have to jump back and forth, the better for me. So knowing that the software that I use for render already, that it allows me to do stuff that I would normally have to do with Substance, that's already like, oh yeah, it's totally worth for me to stick around with that one. And from productivity point of view, I'll maybe just chip in from how I approach it personally, because you know, I work in the concept art illustration field. I'm not a 3D guy. I'm not like a 3D environment artist or anything like that. So when I work in film, especially in film, speed is really important, like really, really important. And the last thing you want to do on the job is sit and freaking play with the dirt, you know, edges and try to set up like a perfect shader, because then you're just like, shit, like I'm wasting so much time.
But once it's done, you know what I mean? Once it's done, you can apply this to anything.
Exactly.
And that's the other thing as well.
The way I approach it is basically, I take my time during the day. Like let's say every week, I want to have 1 or 2 new shaders done, and I'll spend like an hour or two, and then obviously gonna refine them and whatnot. But once you set it up, it's there. Like you can use it, and you can set it up so that you can just replace maybe the reflection maps, you know, so it has a slightly different reflection, and that by itself is completely new shader. setting it up so that you just slowly build your library. It's the same way Vitaly built his basically his library. When you look at the Black Phoenix project that he did, he worked a couple of months straight just building assets upon assets upon assets, and then at the end of it, like towards the end of it, he just basically, all right, I'm gonna do myself a challenge and use all the assets that I've built over the last 7 months and try to design one thing a day. And if you go on his site, on the Black Phoenix project, I believe, let me actually pull it up.
You can just see that straight away, working with this big shader I've got here, I can show you just how quickly you can start to play with something. So if I go into the slate material editor, you can see that the way this material is set up, it's enormous. There's tons of work that's gone into it, but I can just play with the top layers to the material. So say, for example, I've got this shiny edges section. Now I've blended that at 100%. You can see I've got kind of global control over where that's coming in.
Yeah.
But because everything's structured on its own layer and this has its own bump, you can see, for example, you know, it's got a bump in here. When I expose this material, sorry, through the, no water this time. When I expose the material at the very top, as I work with it, say I'm getting direction on how dirty I want it to be. So in the dirt here, I've got control of the radius of where that metal is being exposed. Now the theory is awesome here, because once you make a exposed edges metal, you just use that all the time. You know what I mean? So this exposed edges, let me just bring it over here. You'll see that I can apply this material to the whole thing. Now it's a very simple material. It's just a reflective material with some bump mapping on it. And I think the scale might be a little bit off.
Yeah, it's a little bit too large.
Yeah, so so that's, once again, this is having the correct scale.
Like, you actually made it even bigger. Just remove 1 0 or add.
So by changing the
one
bump
more 0,
intensity,
like 0.01, make it 0.01.
Yeah. Just a little bit more than that. Just wanted to showcase that the bump, you know. So that bump is coming everywhere on the material. Now, when I go back, I just drag that shiny edges material over. When I go and apply this, where I'm exposing those edges or this material, all the bump works correctly. So once you've got it set up, whenever you're exposing the edges, it's going to have nice bump, and you can just play with that stuff. So I don't need to go into necessarily the individual materials and make massive adjustments. Most of the adjustments I'm making are to the radius.
Yeah.
You know, you can see if I just drag over here, just each chunk of the material and just show you the large scale rust, you'll see that this is kind of a combination of being, you know, a little bit reflective, a little bit diffuse, and it's just, you know, it's quite large. You can see that once again the tiling is a bit off here for this scaled object, and I haven't gone into extreme detail to avoid tiling on all this stuff, because I do it on a case-by-case basis. But essentially, say for example, we've got, you know, I've got some color being blended through here. I can go all the way up to 100. I'm using this procedural dent texture here just to vary up the rust texture I've got underneath, and that's disappeared.
Dan mentioned an interesting thing, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna agree, is like with this workflow where you're using tree planar mapping and doing it all inside a shader, you don't really focus, or you don't really care about UVs at all, like not even UV mapping.
No, I don't. I hate UVs. I hate the idea of UVs are just the most annoying thing in 3D. I honestly think, like, it's so the theory is I hate UVs. I absolutely hate UVs. So all of the shaders I make, they're fully procedural. Like you can see the work I did here. this is using the exact same method, and you can just create a whole bunch of different variations of the material quickly and easily, and keep all that detail. So the theory is here, say, for example, I want to work with rust. You go in, you put the effort into making a rust shader that works everywhere, and then you just start using that in the main material. So on the shiny edges, let's just say we want to make this material really rough. I've got the RGB level of 50 being blended through. That's good because it's going to create a nice harsh edge. But I can go really massive on the exposed areas here. Maybe that's just a little too far. Just undo that a bit.
Make it massive.
Now, so this is the base metal.
Do you have like just sorry to interrupt you. Do you have like a blur, like enable or something? In the camera.
Depth of field, possibly. Yeah.
That might be slowing it down too. Yeah, you have it. Yeah, it's killing a lot of details. Noticed.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, it's faster.
And I'll just like reveal a small section of this. Okay, so now, for example, we want to move up to the large scale rust. So to damage a material like this, we would implement it at 100%. So it's just being blended through everywhere. Now we want to change the scale. So you can see for each blend, sometimes I might go up on the complexity to vary it up. But still at the base, we've got that output and we've got that dirt, which is generally controlling where the material goes. These additional layers over the top are designed to mix it up a bit. So you can see I've got a noise texture here, and that gets multiplied over the top just to create randomizations in the intensity of the rust.
No.
You go over the top, you can use a triplanar texture to once again implement that randomization. And then you can also use dirt, you know, additional dirts with different textures just to blend through. But right now you can see that this rust for this scaled object, it's not really faded like I'd want. So I'll go into the base material here, and you can see playing with this RGB value. If I go back to 1, that's the intensity of the blend we would get. So I can go back up to 15. So it just increases. So I've got control over the fall off here and the radius. Just go larger. See that massive amount of rust is starting to come through now as I increase the radius. If we go back to 50, it's not going to come through as much. So I go up to 150 centimeters here.
You have to start working in Slate, dude. Nodes are the best.
Oh man, come on. Okay, so see, I'm looking at the material. You know what I mean, in the render engine. It's not so much the massive structure. I'm just doing it as I go. I don't know. It's
just used to it, dude.
Yeah.
That's
all right.
the point.
Let me
no,
see
it's all good. Just use your own workflow because that's more important. So, but like, I mean, you already.
So we go bigger now. Now this is because I've done the work.
So rusty though.
Yeah, because I've done the work to put into the rust material to make it look a little bit better. When I blend it through, it's locked off.
Yeah.
All right. So now that's a large scale rust. We've got the medium rust as well now. Now this will be in the tighter areas. So this is the less reflective rust, and this is like the more solid. It's starting to build up and get a bit chunky. So the radius on the medium rust is smaller.
Yeah.
So once again, even though we've got a composite here with the additional layers multiplied over the top, the base is that same output, same dirt, and you can see the radius is much smaller.
So dirty.
Now, I can go up on the radius for this stuff, and you can see this rust is much more red. It's much more solid, and it's in your face. That's why I've got a much smaller radius on it, because I don't want that to come through as much. I just want that to add to the base layer.
So I have actually got an interesting question. How would you project like a decal on top of it? Like a singular, like let's say you want to have a writing somewhere and you want to project it. Like what would be the best way to do it in your opinion?
Oh, so you got, I mean, there's a few different ways you can do it. There's lazy way and the hard way. The thing is, right, when you have a decal, say for example, it's white paint.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you really wanted to do it perfectly, you would go into the diffuse part of the base of the metal. So on the base of the metal here, you'd go into the diffuse and you'd put your map. It would be yellow where the decal wasn't.
But you don't have let's start with this. You don't have
UVs. So say
UVs.
you don't have UVs. I can just make an additional decal. I'll go over the top and I'll say this layer is going to include all of my white paint decals. So I have a bunch of text, right? So I'll go in, I'll make a V-Ray material just very quickly, make it slightly white, make it a bit reflective, right? A bit blurry. And now in the blend for that, you just use an alpha map, right?
Yeah.
So I can just use a...
But then you need to project it, right?
Well, then you can use a UV map. So get this right.
Yeah.
I can go... Where's my V-Ray HDRI? Just going a bit crazy here. All right, so let me see if I can find something usable here.
Yeah, the way I would do it is exactly how you're showing it, actually, where I would find an alpha, and then I would do like I don't know, UV mapping box or planner, and then I would make it so that it's like, let's say on map channel 2, for instance, and then in the texture itself or in the material itself, I would make sure that the material reads channel 2, so that it would just basically only project in that one area. And then you have multiple channels that you can use, and any new new thing you want to add, you just change the map channel, and you make sure that the new blend material or the new layer, the new coat layer, is exactly with that channel. So very straightforward. And then you just control, like you just did. You just control the directionality and placement of the planner.
In here, the map channel, you can see if I set it to 2. Now we're blending that white material.
And you want to make sure it's not tileable, right? That's one of the things.
Yeah.
In the do you do it in the where do you do it? Like, do you do it in
here, tile.
Right, there you go. Boom.
There. But I believe when you do that,
never mind. I mean, this is just showing exactly what to do. Right.
But then essentially you've got an interactive way to add just white decals. You just put additional UV maps on, and you're set to go. Yeah. So we can go all the way up to the material.
And then you can still apply the same method in terms of like the blending, right? So you could use one of those dirt maps in composite to basically remove the paint from and just only be in the areas where the yellow
in the exposed areas. Yes. Yeah, so I can go into the, say now we've got that blend map here, which is just that flower texture I've got.
Yep.
And just for the sake of, all right, so now I've got that texture there. If I only want that to show up in the crevices in this blend, I can make, once again, a output. Just keep it there. So now we've got the output, then the V-Ray HDRI. Now I'm going to copy this V-Ray HDRI, and I'll just put a V-Ray dirt. Now I'm going to discard the old map because I just copied it.
Yep.
Now in the occluded areas, I can put the map, and in the unoccluded areas, I can go dark. And now you can see that map will only come through
where the rust is. And then
where the rust
if you wanna have it only where the paint is, you just switch it. Yeah.
And I've got that multiplier there to control the intensity and the power of that.
And it's, guys, it seems like it all looks complicated, but all of the things look complicated when you start it. And I personally, for me,
I break it down like
in your lessons. Yeah, your lessons are really
extreme.
good, very good in terms of breaking it down. It seems complicated, but again, the moment you learn the methods behind it, then you just like slowly, gradually start applying them, and that's the best way to approach it. Like if it seems to be overwhelming to set up something like this, just think about, all right, let me start with the step one, no, like installing the software.
It's very similar to the way Photoshop layers work. Yeah. When you look at it like this, you know what I mean? Except I've always said that V-Ray probably should have done this differently. They should have made the base down the bottom, and then the layers should go up over the top. I still think they should make that adjustment for new people coming in. Because the workflow, I've done it this way to replicate Photoshop as much as possible.
Yep.
So as we go higher up now, you can see I'm just layering up the material. Now, each of these materials isn't too complicated. If you were to go into each one of these materials, you can see all I've got here in this whole material is a diffuse, a reflection map, and a bump map. Yep. Anyone can really understand that relatively quickly. So if you break it down into manageable chunks and say, look, I'm going to make a slightly rusty metal, you know, I mean, it's much simpler than saying I'm going to make a full-on procedural material that's got, you know, multi-layered grunge and grime and edges and shit like that. So, and the beautiful thing is, as I layer up detail here, I can just keep going more and more extreme and not worry about how the rest of the material is behaving or how things are interconnected. So now, for example, I bring up the small rust. Now this is going to be the dark rust right in the crevices that just brings and pops that additional detail. So let me...
Yeah, you're going like...
You know, this is...
balls deep.
Yes, but this is the type of stuff. And once again, the exact same workflow. You've got a couple of maps over the top. And I might even just... say the blend here for the medium rust. It might be identical to the large scale rust, except I'll just make some modifications to the size of a noise map or something like that. It's not like I'm going in and, you know, going super extreme on absolutely everything. So on the small rust now, in the blend here, now at any point it can get confusing. You know, I'm not going to lie. Once you have 8 different materials here.
That's why I use slate, because slate just like it's a tree, and then you know exactly where things are, and it's easy.
Then you look at a tree like this, bro, and you know, it can be.
I know it's confusing.
It's like, how do I? Where is it in here? You know, that's why I like just having this labeled.
You're doing like this insane amount of detail that I barely ever like. My shaders usually have like maybe 1 or 2 blend maps, like tops. But you're going like all, you know, all the way in. So. But it's good to see, because then like this actually shows you the level of control and the level of details that you can just keep adding and adding and adding. Like it never ends. There's no limit. Oh, it crashed. Perfect. It doesn't like end. It just like can go on and on and on and on and on. I think it's a good moment actually to start wrapping it up. Because it's already crashed too. So
no worries. There was a couple of things I wanted to show, but it doesn't matter. We can save it for another time. I mean, I go over this stuff like in depth in my lessons. Like you will be able to understand it. What I wanted to show is here. You can see, even though it's it's just going to die now. You know, for example, say that material here is set up. I've got all the different layers. You can just keep going. Say there's an area you want some black smudges or black scratches. Put it on a different layer and just blend it with another triplanar map.
Yep.
If it looks too tileable, you just use the same workflow. You just blend a couple of other maps over the top to control it, but it stays the same the whole time. And the beauty is once you lock down that workflow, it never changes. It's just variations, and that's where you can go in. I think I saw, let me just show, I bought this morning. I'll get you to grab it as well. So when I shot a bunch of textures for my course, I made those tileable maps that, you know, a lot of people have been using. I was hoping that some people would take that idea and run with it, and they have. So now there's heaps of people putting out much more complicated grunge maps and shit like that, and it just all having libraries like this is your shaders. if you get to know how maps like this are affecting your material, you just go in and use them. So
it's cool stuff.
That's it. That's basically, and you end up, it's all fully procedural. I can go and apply a totally different mesh, and that's why I'd love to get a hold of Vitaly's model one day and just show him what could be done.
Let's figure it out. Let's actually set it up.
Let's figure it out. Let's do a live stream.
Set it up.
A modeling training live stream.
Yeah. So let me actually grab this. So Grant, yeah, thanks, dude. That was awesome.
No worries.
Awesome show. Anyone who's interested to sign up for his classes, here, masteringcgi.com.au. I would highly recommend. The Mastering V-Ray is what taught me how to use V-Ray. And that was when there was V-Ray 2.0, right? When you started it.
Yeah,
so,
that's old school now.
Yeah.
I would suggest getting the lighting course over the V-Ray course at this point, because once I get this material lesson out for the lighting course, it's basically like an update. You know what I mean?
Got it.
It's always updated. So
do that, people. Yeah. Do that, people. It's absolutely worth it. It's absolutely worth the money.
Today.
It's absolutely worth the money. Anyone who's interested, in terms of like when we started Fusion 360, this course, futuristic character design, sign up. This is exactly what I go through. This is basically from start to finish how some of the designs were made. Obviously different subject matter and whatnot, but I would go through how I would create assets for and create scenes that I later would render, working on, shows like Ghost in the Shell. But it just exactly shows you how this shit is done and all the workflows. Some of the things in that class can be slightly outdated because obviously software gets better and moves on and whatnot. So you have to bear that in mind. But you can always join the stream, ask questions. I'll get them answered to you. So yeah, there you have it. So that's the one you can see as I was setting it up. Yeah, all of the goodies are there. V-Ray, it's actually Octane. That's not V-Ray. This one. So, and the last thing I want to mention is Wrigley's class. Michael Wrigley's class is up with 2 apprentices. This is something that we had a stream about yesterday. Michael was showing with Ash, and Joey was there too. They were going through this class, the continuation of production for design for production, this time animation. It's a terrific class to take. So
I'll send you this stuff too, by the way, man.
Cool. All right, so that's about the news, and thanks guys for joining us today. That was an awesome show today.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much.
I had a lot of fun running this with you, Grant, and going back and forth. Next week on Thursday, Curtis Chan from Autodesk Fusion 360 is gonna join us. I'm gonna drill him about shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts, and obviously we're gonna have an interesting conversation about what's developing in Fusion 360. And then 2 weeks from now, I also have Cornelius coming back on the stream too. We're gonna get more and more guests coming up. Obviously, on Wednesday, Ash is streaming, and Grant is always welcome to join us anytime. So we had a lot of cool stuff lining up for Twitch streams, on Learn Squared Twitch streams, and also a lot of cool stuff lining up in terms of new classes that we're working on, and a few of them are really close to be done. So stay tuned, and thanks guys for joining us. And there's just so much shit I would want to talk about, but we're just running out of time.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. I've got this material up too. So.
Yep. All right, guys, take care. And
thanks
till the
very
next
much,
time.
guys.
Peace.
See you later.